Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the stars through the main view screen. It was hard to believe that just 6 months ago, humanity had been trapped in their own solar system. Now here they were, traveling faster than light toward Proxima Centauri, the closest star to Earth. "Captain, we're dropping out of Quantum Fold in 30 seconds, announced Chief Engineer Lisa Parker from her station. She had been working on the new drive system for 3 years, and this was their first real test beyond the solar system. Jake nodded and turned to his crew. "All stations, prepare for normal space. Danny, I want full sensor sweeps the moment we arrive. Amy, start recording everything for the history books." Tactical Officer Danny Rodriguez checked his instruments while Communications Specialist Amy Turner adjusted her equipment. The Liberty shuddered slightly as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and suddenly they were floating in a new star system. "Sensors show 3 planets in this system," Danny reported. 2 are rocky worlds, 1 gas giant. "But Captain, I'm picking up something else." "There are ships out there." "Big ones." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. "Are you sure?" "Positive. 7 vessels, about 2 million kilometers away. They're not human designs, sir." Amy looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. It's not in any Earth language, but our computer is trying to translate. Put it through." The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at something that was definitely not human. The alien had blue-gray skin, 4 arms, and large yellow eyes. It wore what looked like a military uniform with strange symbols. "Unknown vessel," the alien spoke, its voice deep and commanding. "You have entered space controlled by the Galactic Empire. I am Admiral Kekstar of the 3rd Patrol. Fleet, identify yourself immediately." Jake stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Liberty. We come in peace, seeking contact with other intelligent species." Admiral Kekstar's expression changed to what might have been surprise, then something that looked like amusement. "Humans, we have heard rumors of your species. You claim to have developed faster-than-light travel, but our records show you as primitive beings who barely left your home planet. We've recently achieved quantum fold technology," Jake explained. "This is our first journey to another star system. We're explorers, not soldiers." The alien admiral made a sound that might have been laughter. "Explorers. How quaint. Listen carefully, human. This sector has been under Empire control for over 3,000 years. 12 advanced species work together to maintain order and civilization. You will return to your home system immediately and await further instructions." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "With respect, Admiral, we're not looking for trouble. We just want to make peaceful contact and perhaps establish trade relations." "Trade relations?" Kekstar's 4 arms gestured dismissively. "You have nothing we need. Your technology is crude, your ships are primitive. You will return home now, or we will escort you back." Lisa stepped closer to Jake and whispered, "Captain, I'm reading their ship configurations. They're fast, but they don't seem heavily armed. More like patrol vessels than warships." Jake looked back at the screen. "Admiral, surely we can discuss this peacefully. We're not a threat to your empire." "Everything is a threat until proven otherwise," Kekstar replied coldly. "You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. We will inspect your vessel and determine what information you may have gathered." "We don't have any weapons," Jake said truthfully. "The Liberty is an exploration ship." "All ships have weapons," the Admiral insisted. "You will comply immediately or we will disable your vessel and take you by force." Danny checked his instruments again and shook his head. At Jake, the Liberty really didn't have any weapons beyond small defense lasers meant for clearing space debris. "Admiral, we're willing to leave your space if that's what you want," Jake said carefully. "But we won't submit to boarding by a foreign power. We're citizens of Earth and we have rights." The alien's expression turned angry. "Rights? You speak of rights to a superior species? You evolved from primitive apes? We have been traveling between stars since before your ancestors discovered fire. You have no rights here except what we choose to give you." Amy looked up from her communications panel, her face pale. Captain, I'm picking up weapons charging signatures from their ships. They're targeting us. Jake felt the situation spinning out of control. Admiral, there's no need for violence. We're leaving your territory now. Too late, Kextar snarled. You have shown disrespect to the Empire. Your species must learn proper behavior. We will disable your ship and take you as prisoners. Perhaps your people will learn wisdom from your example. All ships, open fire, the Admiral commanded. The Liberty's hull shook as energy beams struck their shields. Lisa shouted from her station. Shields down to 60%. Captain, we can't take much more of this. Danny, evasive maneuvers, Jake ordered. Sir, this is an exploration ship. We're not built for combat. Then we run. Jake turned to Lisa. Can you get us back into quantum? Fold? I need 3 minutes to charge the drive. Another barrage of energy fire hit the Liberty. The lights flickered and smoke began filling the bridge. Shields at 30%. Amy called out. Jake grabbed the communications microphone. Admiral Kextar, we're leaving your space now. There's no need to continue this attack. You should have thought of that before showing disrespect, came the reply. Surrender now, and we might let some of your crew live. Like hell, Jake muttered. He looked at his crew with determination. We're not the first humans to face impossible odds. Lisa, how much longer? 2 minutes. The ship shook again, harder this time. Danny was doing his best to keep them moving. But the Empire ships were faster and more maneuverable. They're trying to disable our engines, Danny reported. If they succeed, we're trapped, Jake thought quickly. The Empire ships were elegant and efficient, but they seemed to follow predictable patterns. Danny, can you put us into a spin? A spin? Captain, that's not a standard maneuver. Nothing about this situation is standard. Do it. The Liberty began rotating wildly, making it harder for the Empire ships to target specific systems. The alien vessels seemed confused by the chaotic movement. 1 minute, Lisa shouted. They're coming around for another attack run, Danny warned. Jake watched the tactical display. The Empire ships were moving in a perfect formation, just like they probably taught in their military academies. But sometimes being unpredictable was better than being perfect. Amy, send a message to Earth. Tell them we've made contact with a hostile alien empire. Include all our sensor data. Message sent, Captain. Quantum full drive is ready, Lisa announced. Do it. Get us out of here. The Liberty vanished in a flash of light, leaving the Empire patrol fleet behind. Admiral Kextar stared at the empty space where the human ship had been. Sir, his tactical officer said, they escaped using some kind of instantaneous jump drive. Our sensors couldn't track their destination. Kextar's expression was grim. Send a message to High Command. Tell them we've encountered the humans and they're more troublesome than expected. Also, inform them that human technology may be more advanced than our intelligence suggested. Meanwhile, the Liberty emerged from Quantum Fold near Earth's moon. Jake slumped in his captain's chair, exhausted. Well, he said quietly, I guess we're not alone in the universe after all. Amy looked up from her station. Captain, Earth Command is requesting an immediate report, Jake nodded grimly. Tell them we need to talk. And tell them we might need to start building some real warships, Lisa frowned. Captain, you think they'll come after us? I think we just made some very powerful enemies, Jake replied. And I don't think they're going to forget about us anytime soon. The Liberty continued toward Earth, carrying news that would change humanity forever. Behind them, in the darkness of space, the Empire was already making plans. President Helen Carter sat in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the White House, staring at the holographic display showing Captain Morrison's encounter with the alien fleet. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth, all trying to process what they had just witnessed. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, said Admiral Rick Hayes, the head of Earth Space Command. These aliens attacked our exploration ship without warning, demanded our surrender, and threatened to make us slaves? That's exactly what happened, confirmed General Patricia Wells, the Secretary of Defense. They called us primitive apes, and said we had no rights except what they choose to give us. President Carter rubbed her temples. She had been in office for 3 years and had dealt with wars, natural disasters, and economic crises, but nothing had prepared her for this. What do we know about this galactic empire? Dr. Alan Brooks, the head of the xenobiology department, pulled up his notes. Based on Captain Morrison's report, they claim to control this entire sector of space. 12 different alien species working together, with technology that's been advancing for thousands of years. And they see us as insects, added Intelligence Director Karen White. The way that Admiral Kekstar spoke to Captain Morrison showed complete contempt for our entire species. Admiral Hayes leaned forward. Madam President, we need to consider our options. The Liberty barely escaped, and that was just a patrol fleet. If they decide to come to Earth with a real military force, we'd be defenseless, General Wells finished. Our current space fleet consists of research vessels, cargo ships, and a few outdated orbital defense platforms. We don't have a single ship designed for actual combat. President Carter looked around the table. What about our military shipyards? Can we convert them to build warships? The asteroid mining facilities could be modified, Admiral Hayes said slowly. And the Mars orbital construction yards have the basic framework. But we're talking about designing entirely new ships from scratch. How long would that take? The President asked. At least 6 months for the first prototype, General Wells replied. Maybe a year for full production. We might not have that much time, warned Director White. If this empire decides we're a threat, they could attack at any moment. President Carter stood up and walked to the window overlooking the city. Millions of people going about their daily lives, unaware that humanity had just made contact with a hostile alien empire. What kind of ships should we build? Admiral Hayes activated another holographic display. I've been thinking about that. The Empire ships we saw were elegant, efficient, and fast. They're probably designed for long-range patrol and multi-purpose operations. Meaning, the President asked. Meaning they're not built specifically for war, General Wells explained. They're built to be good at many things. But there's an old saying in military engineering, a weapon designed to do everything usually does nothing particularly well. Dr. Brooks nodded. Human engineering philosophy has always been different. We tend to build things tough and simple. Look at our cars, our buildings, our aircraft. We over-engineer everything. So we build ships the same way, Admiral Hayes said. Heavy armor, powerful weapons, designed for one purpose, fighting and winning. President Carter turned back to the table. What about crew training? These aliens have been fighting in space for thousands of years. Our people have never been in a real space battle. That's actually an advantage, General Wells said, surprising everyone. They'll expect us to fight like they do, but we don't know their rules, so we won't be limited by them. I don't understand, the President said. Think about it, Admiral Hayes explained. These aliens have been part of this empire for millennia. They probably have established ways of conducting space warfare, rules about what's acceptable and what isn't. We don't know those rules, so we won't follow them. Director White pulled up intelligence reports. Captain Morrison mentioned that. The aliens seemed confused when he put the Liberty into an uncontrolled spin. They expected predictable maneuvers. Exactly, General Wells said. They've been fighting civilized wars for so long, they've forgotten how to fight dirty. President Carter made her decision. Admiral Hayes, I want you to start converting every available construction facility to military production. General. Wells, begin recruiting and training crews for combat operations. Dr. Brooks, I want our best scientists working on weapons and defensive systems. What about diplomacy? Asked Secretary of State Robert Chun. Maybe we can negotiate with them? After they shot at us unprovoked? Admiral Hayes shook his head. They made their intentions clear. They see us as animals to be controlled. But we should try, Secretary Chun insisted. War should be the last option. President Carter nodded. We'll prepare for war while hoping for peace. But based on what we've seen, I don't think these aliens are interested in peaceful coexistence. 3 weeks later, the first human warship design was complete. In the Mars orbital yards, engineers worked around the clock to build something that had never existed before, a ship designed solely for combat. Chief Engineer Sam Parker, Lisa's older brother, supervised the construction. "Make the armor twice as thick," he told his team. "These aliens use energy weapons, so we need to be able to absorb massive amounts of damage. That's going to make the ship slower," warned his assistant, Engineer Tom Davis. "Good," Sam replied. "Speed is nice, but staying alive is better. Besides, if we can't outrun them, we'll have to outfight them." The new ship, designated UES Defiance, looked nothing like the sleek alien vessels from the recordings. It was angular, brutal, and covered in armor plating. Instead of elegant curves, it had sharp edges and practical designs. "It's not pretty," admitted Captain Maria Lopez, who had been chosen to command the Defiance. "But it looks like it can. Take a punch. That's the idea," Sam said. "We also loaded it with kinetic weapons instead of energy beams." "Kinetic weapons?" Captain Lopez asked. "Railguns and missile systems. Old-fashioned projectiles that hit hard and fast. Energy weapons are precise, but kinetic weapons cause massive structural damage." Meanwhile, training facilities across Earth were working overtime to prepare crews for space combat. Lieutenant Commander Paul Adams ran the boarding action training program, teaching soldiers how to fight inside spaceships. "Remember," he told his trainees, "these aliens probably haven't fought hand-to-hand combat in centuries. They rely on their technology. But if we can get close enough, human soldiers are still the best fighters in the galaxy." The trainees practiced with projectile weapons, something most spacefaring species had abandoned long ago. "Why not laser?" "Rifles?" asked Sergeant Lisa Wright. "Because projectile weapons work in any environment," Adams explained. "Laser rifles can be disrupted by electromagnetic fields, but a bullet is a bullet, simple, reliable, and lethal." Back on Earth, President Carter received daily reports on the military buildup. In just 2 months, they had laid the keels for 12 warships and trained over 3,000 space combat personnel. "Are we ready?" she asked Admiral Hayes during one of their weekly meetings. "As ready as we can be," he replied. "But, Madam President, we need to accept that we're probably going to lose the first battle. These aliens have technology and experience we can't match. Then why are we doing this?" "Because losing the first battle doesn't mean losing the war," General Wells said. "Human history is full of examples of people who won by refusing to give up, even when the odds were against them." President Carter nodded. "What about the alien response? Have we heard anything from them?" Director White shook her head. "Complete silence. Either they're ignoring us or they're planning something." "I suspect they're planning something," Admiral Hayes said grimly. "The question is, what?" Unknown to the humans, deep in Empire space, Admiral Kekstar was indeed planning something. He stood before the High Council, giving his report on the human encounter. "The species shows more technological capability than our initial intelligence suggested," he said. "They have faster-than-light travel, and their ship escaped our patrol fleet." Supreme Chancellor Mordak, a tall reptilian being with silver scales, listened carefully. "Do you consider them a threat?" "Not immediately," Kekstar replied. "But they showed defiance when they should have shown submission. This could encourage other species to challenge our authority." "Then we must demonstrate the consequences of defiance," the Chancellor said. "Prepare a punishment fleet. 30 ships should be sufficient to destroy their homeworld and end this problem." "Yes, Chancellor," Kekstar bowed. "The humans will serve as an example to any other species considering rebellion." As the Empire prepared for war, humanity continued its desperate race to build a defense fleet. Neither side fully understood what they were getting into, but both were committed to the path ahead. The galaxy was about to witness something it hadn't seen in thousands of years, a species willing to fight for its freedom, no matter the cost. Commander Seth Johnson floated in the zero-gravity command center of Luna Base, watching the tactical display with growing concern. 30 alien ships had just appeared at the edge of the solar system, moving steadily toward Earth. "They're not even trying to hide?" observed Lieutenant Amy Turner. who had been transferred from the Liberty after the first contact incident. They're coming straight at us like they own the place. Because they think they do, Seth replied grimly. He activated the communication system. All human ships, this is Commander Johnson. Form up according to Battle Plan Alpha. We knew this day would come. The human defense fleet consisted of 8 ships, all built in the past 6 months. The flagship used Thunder, commanded by Captain Maria Lopez, led the formation. Behind her came the Defiance, Vengeance, Warrior, Guardian, Striker, Hammer, and Shield. They were ugly ships compared to the sleek alien vessels, but they had been built for one purpose: fighting. Thunder to all ships, Captain Lopez's voice came over the comm. Remember your training. These aliens think we're primitive animals. Let's show them what happens when you corner an animal. Aboard the lead Empire ship, Admiral Kekstar studied the human formation with amusement. 8 ships? He said to his tactical officer. They're sending 8 ships against our 30? Perhaps they have additional forces hidden, Admiral, suggested Commander Velenok, a cautious officer who had survived many battles. Hidden where? Kekstar laughed. We've scanned the entire system. This is their entire fleet. Look at those ships, Commander. They're crude, boxy, and slow. This will be over quickly. The 2 fleets approached each other in the space between Earth and Mars. The Empire ships moved in perfect formation, their polished hulls gleaming in the sunlight. The human ships looked like flying fortresses, bristling with weapons and covered in thick armor plating. Human vessels, Admiral Kekstar broadcast, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick, Commander Johnson responded from Luna Base. This is Commander Johnson of the United Earth Defense Force, UR. In violation of Earth space. Leave immediately or face the consequences. Consequences? Kekstar was genuinely amused. You evolved from tree-dwelling creatures. We have been masters of space combat for 3,000 years. There are no consequences you can impose on us. Captain Lopez's voice cut through the comm channel. All ships, weapons free. Let's teach these aliens about consequences. The human. Ships opened fire first, launching missiles and railgun projectiles at the Empire fleet. The aliens had expected energy weapons, elegant beam arrays that could be countered with proper shield harmonics. Instead, they faced a storm of metal projectiles moving at incredible speeds. Evasive maneuvers, Kekstar shouted as his flagship shuddered under impact. How are they penetrating our shields? Admiral, his tactical officer reported. They're using kinetic weapons. Our shields are designed to deflect energy, not solid projectiles. The Empire ships began their attack run, firing their energy beams at the human vessels. The elegant blue and green energy bolts struck the Thunder's hull, scorching the armor but failing to penetrate. Damage report, Captain Lopez called out. Armor holding at 90%, reported Chief Engineer Lisa Parker, who had requested transfer to the Thunder after the Liberty incident. These energy weapons are powerful, but they're not designed to punch through heavy armor. Then let's get close enough to hurt them, Lopez ordered. All ships, close formation. We're going in. The human ships charged directly at the Empire fleet, ignoring the energy fire striking their hulls. This violated every principle of space combat that the aliens knew. Civilized species engaged at long range with precision weapons, not in brutal close-quarters combat. They're not following standard engagement protocols, Commander Velenok observed with growing alarm. Because they don't know them, Kekstar realized. They're fighting like barbarians. The Thunder took heavy fire as it approached the Empire flagship, but its thick armor absorbed the damage. When it got within 2 kilometers, Captain Lopez gave the order that would change galactic warfare forever. All guns, fire at will. Lisa, prepare for ramming speed. Ramming speed? Lisa stared at her captain. Maria, that's suicide. No, Lopez smiled grimly. That's human. The Thunder accelerated directly at the Empire flagship, its guns blazing. The alien ship tried to turn away. But human ships were built for close combat and had superior maneuverability at short range. They're going to ram us, Velenok shouted. Impossible, Kekstar said. No civilized species would sacrifice their own ship. The thunder struck the Empire flagship at full speed, its reinforced prow punching through the alien hull. Both ships spun away from each other, heavily damaged but still functional. "Hull breach on decks 5 through 8, Lisa reported. "But we're still in the fight." "Good," Lopez said, tasting blood from where the impact had thrown her against. Her console: "Target their engines. If they can't run, they can't fight." Meanwhile, the other human ships were employing equally unorthodox tactics. The Defiance had attached itself to an Empire cruiser using magnetic grapples, firing point-blank into the alien hull. The Vengeance was using its armor as a weapon, deliberately colliding with enemy ships to damage them. "This is madness," Kextar muttered, watching his carefully organized fleet dissolve into chaos. "They're using their ships as weapons." "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "Captain Mortek is requesting permission to withdraw. His ship has been boarded by human soldiers." "Boarded?" Kextar couldn't believe it. Who boards enemy ships in the middle of a battle? Lieutenant Commander Paul Adams led his boarding party through the corridors of the Empire cruiser, his projectile rifle ready. The alien crew wasn't prepared for hand-to-hand combat. Most of them had never seen violence up close. "Surrender and you won't be harmed," Adams announced through his translator. Several alien crew members dropped their energy weapons and raised their hands. "How do we fight them?" One alien asked another. "They use primitive bullet weapons that work in any environment. I don't know," was the reply. "Our training never covered this type of combat." Back in the main battle, the Empire fleet was falling apart. They had lost 8 ships to human tactics they didn't understand. The remaining 22 ships were damaged and demoralized. "Admiral," Velenok said urgently, "we need to withdraw. Our losses are unacceptable." "We cannot retreat from primitive humans," Kextar insisted. "The Empire's reputation depends on victory." "The Empire's reputation depends on having ships left to fight with," Velenok countered. "These humans fight like nothing we've ever encountered." The thunder, still burning from its ramming attack, limped toward another Empire ship. Captain Lopez was wounded but still in command. "Lisa, can we ram another one?" she asked. "The ship won't survive another impact like that," Lisa replied. "Then we'll make it count," Lopez said. "Target their command ship." The thunder accelerated toward Admiral Kextar-S flagship, its remaining weapons firing continuously. The Empire ship tried to retreat, but the thunder's sacrifice had damaged its engines. "They're coming straight at us again," Velenok reported. "Admiral, we need to abandon ship." "No," Kextar said firmly. "If we're going to die, we die fighting." But the thunder didn't ram the flagship. Instead, it stopped just short and unleashed every weapon it had at point-blank range. The Empire ship's shields collapsed, its hull cracked, and systems began failing throughout the vessel. "All Empire ships," Kextar broadcast on an open channel, "retreat immediately. This is Admiral Kextar ordering general withdrawal." The surviving Empire ships turned and fled toward the edge of the solar system, leaving behind 12 destroyed vessels and hundreds of dead crew members. Commander Johnson watched from Luna Base as the alien fleet retreated. "Human casualties?" he asked. "Thunder is heavily damaged but repairable," Amy reported. "Defiance lost life support on 3 decks. Vengeance has engine damage. But sir, all our ships are still functional. And the aliens? 12 ships destroyed? The rest retreating. We won, sir," Johnson nodded slowly. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the solar system is secure, and tell them we're going to need bigger ships." As the Empire fleet limped away from Earth, Admiral Kextar stared at the tactical display showing his losses. 12 ships destroyed by 8 human vessels. It was impossible, but it had happened. "Sir," Velenok said quietly, "what do we tell?" "The High Council? We tell them the truth," Kextar replied. "We tell them that humans don't fight like any species we've ever encountered. They use their ships as weapons, they board enemy vessels during battle, and they're willing to die to protect their home." "Will the Council believe it?" "They'll have to," Kextar said grimly, "because we're going to need a much larger fleet to defeat these humans." The Empire had learned a painful lesson about underestimating the descendants of Earth's apes. But the war was far from over. Grand Admiral Zexcon stood before the High Council of the Galactic Empire, his silver ceremonial armor gleaming under the chamber's lights. The 12 species that ruled the galaxy sat in judgment, their various forms creating an intimidating display of alien power. "Explain to us again," Supreme Chancellor Mordock said slowly, "how Admiral Kextar lost 12 ships to 8 human vessels." Zexcon activated the holographic display showing the battle near Earth. The humans employed tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. They rammed our ships, boarded them during combat, and used primitive kinetic weapons instead of proper energy arrays. Kinetic weapons? Chancellor Mordock's reptilian features showed confusion. No species has used solid projectiles in warfare for over 1,000 years. That appears to be why they were effective, Zexcon admitted reluctantly. Our shields are designed to deflect energy, not metal objects moving at high velocity. Counselor Thylon, representing the insectoid Vex species, clicked his mandibles in thought. Perhaps we underestimated their primitive nature. Sometimes older methods can be surprisingly effective. They are still primitives, insisted Counselor Pelgotha of the Zeridian Empire. One species cannot stand against the combined might of 12 advanced civilizations. Supreme Chancellor Mordock rose from his throne. Grand Admiral Zexcon, you will take a fleet of 200 ships to the human system. Destroy their planet and end this embarrassment to our authority. Yes, Chancellor, Zexcon bowed. I will study their tactics and ensure our forces are prepared for their unconventional methods. See that you do, the Chancellor replied. The galaxy must see that defying the Empire has consequences. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was preparing for the next attack. The victory over the Empire patrol fleet had bought them time, but everyone knew the aliens would return with overwhelming force. Admiral Rick Hayes stood in the war room beneath the Pentagon, studying intelligence reports from across the solar system. Our scouts report massive fleet movements in Empire space. They're bringing everything they have. President Helen Carter joined him at the tactical table. How many ships are we talking about? Conservative estimate? 150 worst case? Over 200? And we have 47 combat vessels, Admiral Hayes replied. All built in the past year using lessons learned from the first battle. General Patricia Wells entered the room carrying a datapad. The new ships are ready for deployment. The Devastator-class dreadnoughts are unlike anything we've built before. President Carter looked at the ship specifications. The UES Devastator was 3 times larger than the Thunder, covered in armor plating thick enough to stop battleship guns. Its weapons included railguns that could fire projectiles the size of cars. It looks like a flying fortress, the President observed. That's exactly what it is, Admiral Hayes confirmed. We learned from the first battle that our advantage lies in close-range combat and heavy armor. The Devastator is designed to take incredible punishment while delivering devastating firepower. Engineer Kyle Thompson, who had designed the new shield systems, joined the briefing. We've also solved the energy weapon problem. Our new shields focus on stopping the high-energy particles while letting kinetic projectiles pass through. Wait, General Wells said, you designed shields that let bullets through? Our bullets, Kyle explained. We can shoot out, but their energy beams can't shoot in? It's a matter of frequency modulation and particle recognition. Captain Nicole Davis, the new commander of the Devastator, reviewed the tactical plans. The Empire will expect us to fight the same way we did before. But we've learned some new tricks. 3 months later, the Empire fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. Grand Admiral Zexcon commanded from his flagship, the Eternal Glory, a massive vessel that had never been defeated in battle. There, his tactical officer pointed to the scanner display. Human ships holding position near their 4th planet. Zexcon studied the formation. 47 human vessels arranged in what appeared to be a defensive sphere around Mars. They're protecting their colonies. This will be easier than expected. Admiral, Commander Welfeck observed. Some of those ships are much larger than the ones we faced before. Size means nothing if they still fight like barbarians, Zexcon replied. All ships advance in battle formation. We will destroy them systematically. The Empire fleet moved forward in perfect formation, 200. Ships arranged in precise geometric patterns. It was an impressive display of military discipline and technological superiority. Captain Davis watched from the Devastator's bridge as the alien fleet approached. They really like their formations, don't they? Makes them predictable, replied Commander Frank Miller from the bridge of the heavy cruiser Relentless. Just like last time. All ships, Admiral Hayes broadcasted from the command ship Independence. Remember the plan. Let them come to us. The Empire fleet continued its advance. Energy weapons charging and shields at maximum power. Grand Admiral Zexcon felt confident. 200 ships against 47. The humans had fought well against a small patrol fleet, but this was the full might of the Empire. Human vessels, Zexcon transmitted. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender immediately, and we will consider allowing some of your species to survive as servants. Captain Davis activated her comm system. Empire Fleet, this is Captain Nicole Davis of the United Earth Defense Force. We have a message for you. What message? Zexcon asked. Go to hell. The human fleet opened fire simultaneously, but not at the Empire ships. Instead, they fired at empty space between the two fleets. Thousands of projectiles created a massive cloud of metal fragments and debris. What are they doing? Commander Welfeck asked in confusion. I don't know, Zexcon admitted. Continue. The advance. The Empire ships entered the debris field, and suddenly their elegant formations became a liability. The metal fragments, moving at high velocity, struck the lead ships and caused massive damage to their hulls. Our shields can't stop all of these fragments, reported the tactical officer. They're too small and numerous. It's like flying through a sandstorm. Another officer added as the Empire fleet struggled through the debris field, the human ships activated their new shield systems and charged forward. The aliens' energy weapons couldn't penetrate the modified shields. While human kinetic weapons passed right through, the Devastator led the charge, its massive railguns firing continuously. Each projectile that hit an Empire ship caused catastrophic damage, punching through hulls and destroying internal systems. Impossible, Zexcon shouted as his formation fell apart. How are they shooting through their own shields? Captain Davis smiled as her ship's weapons tore into an Empire cruiser. Sometimes being primitive has its advantages. The battle became a nightmare for the Empire fleet. Human ships rammed alien vessels, used their armor as weapons, and employed tactics that no civilized species would consider. Lieutenant Tony Garcia piloted his fighter directly into the engine section of an Empire destroyer, ejecting at the last moment while his ship caused massive internal explosions. Admiral, Commander Welfeck reported urgently. We've lost 30 ships and the humans haven't lost a single vessel. How is that possible? Zexcon demanded. Their armor is too thick for our energy weapons to penetrate, and they're using the debris field as cover. Our formations are breaking down. The Devastator approached the Empire flagship, its guns blazing. Grand Admiral Zexcon watched in horror as projectiles the size of cars slammed into his ship's hull. Shields failing, his tactical officer reported. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Captain Davis opened a communication channel to the Empire flagship. Grand Admiral, this is your last chance to surrender. The Empire does not surrender to primitives, Zexcon replied defiantly. Then you'll die like the rest, Davis said calmly, and ordered her weapons to fire again. The eternal glory, pride of the Empire fleet, shuddered under the massive impacts. Its elegant hull cracked, its shields collapsed, and systems began failing throughout the ship. All ships, retreat, Zexcon finally ordered. General withdrawal. The surviving Empire ships turned and fled toward the edge of the solar system, leaving behind 67 destroyed vessels and thousands of dead crew members. The humans had won another impossible victory. Captain Davis surveyed the battlefield from her command chair. Damage report. Minor hull damage to 12 ships, her tactical officer reported. No ships lost. The enemy fleet has withdrawn. Admiral. Hayes' voice came over the comm. Outstanding work, all ships. Earth is secure once again. As the Empire fleet retreated, Grand Admiral Zexcon stared at the tactical display showing his massive losses. 67 ships destroyed. Nearly a third of his fleet eliminated by creatures that had barely achieved spaceflight. Sir, Welfick said quietly, what do we tell the High Council? We tell them that humans are not the primitive species we thought they were, Zexcon replied. We tell them that their weapons and tactics are unlike anything in our databases. And we tell them that if we want to defeat them, we need to completely rethink how we fight wars. Do you think the Council will authorize a larger fleet? Zexcon looked at the damage reports flooding his screens. I think the Council is about to realize that we're not fighting primitives. Supreme Chancellor Mordock paced around the High Council chamber, his silver scales reflecting the emergency lighting. The holographic display showed the wreckage of the Second Empire fleet, floating dead in space near the human homeworld. 67 ships, he said slowly, his voice filled with disbelief. Grand Admiral Zexcon lost 67 ships to the same primitives who were supposed to be crushed by superior numbers. Councillor Thielen's insect-like features twitched nervously. Perhaps we need to reconsider our approach to these humans. No, Chancellor Mordock slammed his clawed hand on the council table. We cannot show weakness. If other species see us backing down from one primitive world, they might think the Empire is losing its strength. But Chancellor, Councillor Pelgotha said carefully, our losses have been significant. Maybe we should try negotiation. The time for negotiation ended when they destroyed our fleets, the Chancellor replied. We will send every available ship in the Empire. 300 vessels under my personal command. These humans will learn what happens when you defy us. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Helen Carter met with her military advisors in the underground war room. The mood was tense despite their recent victories. Our scouts report massive fleet movements throughout Empire space, Admiral Rick Hayes said grimly. They're pulling ships from every sector. How many? President Carter asked. Over 300 ships, General Patricia Wells replied. And intelligence suggests the Supreme Chancellor himself will be leading them. They're bringing everything they have, observed Admiral Jake Morrison, who had been promoted after the Liberty incident. This time they won't underestimate us. Captain Nicole Davis joined the meeting, still wearing her combat uniform from the Devastator. Our current fleet stands at 58 ships, including the new super heavy dreadnoughts. Against 300, the President said quietly. Even with our advantages, those odds are impossible. Maybe not, said Dr. Alan Brooks, the head of weapons development. We've been working on something new. Something the Empire has never seen before. He activated a holographic display showing a massive ship design. We call it the UES Apocalypse. It's not fast, it's not pretty, but it carries enough firepower to level a small moon. Admiral Hayes studied the specifications. This thing is more weapon than ship. How many can we build? We have 1 completed and 2 more under construction, Dr. Brooks replied. The Apocalypse weighs as much as 10 normal ships and carries weapons that make the Devastator look like a patrol boat. Captain Davis looked at the design with professional interest. Who's going to command it? You are, Admiral Hayes said. Congratulations, Admiral Davis, you've just been promoted. 3 weeks later, the largest fleet in Empire history arrived at the edge of the solar system. Supreme Chancellor Mordock commanded from his personal flagship, the Dominator, a massive vessel that had conquered dozens of worlds. There they are, his tactical officer announced. 58 human ships in defensive formation around their outer planets. Chancellor Mordock studied the enemy formation with cold satisfaction. 300 ships against 58. Even these unpredictable humans cannot overcome such odds. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, sensors detect several very large ships in their formation. Much bigger than anything we've seen before. Bigger means easier to hit, the Chancellor replied. All ships advance and destroy the human fleet. Show no mercy. The Empire fleet moved forward in a massive wall of ships, their combined firepower capable of destroying entire planets. It was the most impressive display of military might the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Davis watched from the bridge of the UES Apocalypse as the alien armada approached. The ship around her was more fortress than vessel, its weapon systems taking up most of the interior space. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "enemy fleet closing to weapons range." "All ships," Davis broadcasted to the human fleet, "remember what we're fighting for. Every human who ever lived and every human who ever will live is counting on us." Captain Frank Miller, commanding the heavy cruiser Relentless, checked his weapons status. "All guns ready, Admiral. Let's show these aliens what humans can do." The Empire fleet opened fire first, 300 ships unleashing their energy weapons simultaneously. The space around the human fleet lit up like a solar flare as thousands of energy beams struck their targets, but the human ships had learned from previous battles. Their armor absorbed the energy, their shields deflected what they couldn't stop, and they continued moving forward. "Minimal damage," reported Captain Susan Clark from the destroyer Fierce. "These energy weapons just aren't strong enough to punch through our armor." "Then let's get close enough to hurt them," Admiral Davis ordered. "All ships advance." Time to introduce them to human firepower. The human fleet charged directly at the Empire formation, ignoring the energy fire that lit up their hulls. When they reached optimal range, they opened fire with their kinetic weapons. The effect was devastating. Railgun projectiles tore through Empire ship hulls like paper. Missile volleys overwhelmed alien point defenses. The elegant Empire vessels, designed for precision and efficiency, couldn't withstand the brutal punishment of human weapons. "Impossible!" Chancellor Morduck shouted as his formation began to collapse. "They should be destroyed by now." "Sir," his tactical officer reported with growing panic, "their armor is too thick for our weapons. We're not penetrating their hulls." The Apocalypse, Admiral Davis's flagship, lived up to its name. It's massive. Weapon systems fired continuously, each shot destroying or crippling an Empire ship. The aliens had never faced anything like it. "That can't be a human warship." Chancellor Morduck stared in horror as the Apocalypse's guns tore apart a heavy cruiser with a single volley. Nothing that primitive should be able to mount weapons of that size. Lieutenant Tony Garcia piloted his fighter through the chaos of battle, targeting the Empire command ships. His small craft dodged energy beams while firing missiles at critical systems. "Garcia to all fighters," he broadcasted. "Target their command antennas. If they can't communicate, they can't coordinate." The human fighter pilots, trained in brutal, close combat tactics, dove directly at Empire ships without regard for their own safety. Several pilots deliberately crashed their damaged fighters into enemy vessels, causing massive explosions. Captain Miller's Relentless had attached itself to an Empire battleship using magnetic grapples. His crew was fighting a boarding action in the alien ship's corridors while his guns fired point-blank into the enemy hull. "This is insane," an Empire crew member shouted to his companions. "They're fighting inside our own ship. How do we stop them?" Another alien asked, firing his energy weapon at human soldiers who were advancing with projectile rifles. "I don't know," came the reply. "Our training never covered this." The battle continued for hours, with the Empire fleet steadily losing ships to human tactics they couldn't understand or counter. The Chancellor's perfect formation had become a confused mass of damaged vessels trying to escape the human assault. "Sir," the Dominator's tactical officer reported urgently, "we've lost over half our fleet. The humans are still advancing." Chancellor Morduck watched his screen in disbelief as another Empire ship exploded under human fire. "How are they doing?" We have superior technology, superior numbers, superior experience." "They don't fight like any species we know," his intelligence officer observed. "They use their ships as weapons, they board enemy vessels during battle, and they're willing to die to achieve victory." The Apocalypse approached the Empire flagship, its guns trained on the Dominator's command section. Admiral Davis opened a communication channel. "Supreme Chancellor, she said calmly. "This is your final chance to surrender. Order your fleet to withdraw, or we'll destroy every ship you have. The Empire does not surrender," Morduk replied defiantly. "Then you'll die with your ships," Davis said, and gave the order to fire. The Apocalypse's main guns, weapons designed to crack open asteroids, fired at point-blank range into the Empire flagship. The Dominator's shields collapsed instantly, its hull cracked open and atmosphere vented into space. "All Empire ships," Chancellor Morduk transmitted with his dying breath, "retreat immediately. These humans are not what we thought they were." The surviving Empire ships, fewer than 80 vessels out of the original 300, fled toward the edge of the solar system. The greatest military force in galactic history had been crushed by a species that had achieved spaceflight less than 2 years ago. Admiral Davis surveyed the battlefield from her command chair. Floating in space around them were the remains of over 200 Empire ships, while the human fleet had lost only 3 vessels. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the Empire capital. They're requesting a ceasefire and peace negotiations." Davis smiled grimly. "Put me through to Earth Command. Tell President Carter that the war is over. And tell her that humanity is no longer alone in the universe. We're now a power that the galaxy has to respect." Months later, Captain Jake Morrison, now an admiral himself, led the first human diplomatic mission to the Empire capital. The aliens who had once called humans primitive apes now treated them as equals.